Hello, a few weeks away, but I'm back and I hope you guys are good. 0% VAT. We've got a new Prime Minister. Andy Burnham stepped in and he said he's going to give 0% VAT on home domestic energy or electricity. So that means good news for a lot of people who are going to save a bit of money this winter with electricity prices in the UK being higher than anywhere else in the world. But it also means that the disparity between home charging your electric car and public charging your electric car is even wider. So I know it's a bugbear and I know we go on about it a lot, but why, oh, why do the people who don't have a drive have to pay a lot more money to drive their car if it's an EV? If we're trying to encourage people into EVs, why are we making the disparity so stark and difficult? Why is public charging still difficult? What is it about the network that apps are difficult difficult to use? The charging network's difficult to understand, CCS2, level 2, all of those things. There's loads of barriers. I'm watching a free market evolve in this space and have been doing it for some time. And it's getting really, really, really good with a really extensive network. But everyone's in competition with each other still. There is some amalgamation going on amongst charging companies, but that's because there's a sad story going on with some going bust. So they're being eaten up and then going into smaller amounts of networks, which means fewer charging apps. That's good, but I think we need to just continue to drive this. If we want EVs to work, then we've got to really push for it. And domestic charging and public charging rates should be similar. It shouldn't be hard to own an EV if you don't have public charging, if you don't have the facility for home charging. And our public council checker for cable gullies is going really, really well. We've had lots of new club members come on, so thank you very much. You're seeing this month's rates for home tariffs, slow, rapid AC charging, and so on. All the latest rates are in there. So I'm hoping that we're beginning to help you guys get make the ownership proposition a little bit easier and a little bit more fluid. So I'm going to talk a little bit about used EV prices this morning because it's a big one, actually. Why is every fastest selling used car electric? This is what we need to ask. For the first time ever, electric and hybrid models occupied all 10 spots in Auto Trader's list of Britain's fastest selling used cars in July 2026. High petrol prices, falling used EV prices, and 8,000 plus cars worth of battery health data have finally converged on the UK. Used EVs are no longer the cautious choice. They are the obvious choice. I'm just going to get a graphic up for you guys to see a little bit about this amount here. So let me just make that full screen so you can see it with me a bit smaller. Every fastest selling car, its used car, is now electric. So high petrol prices, falling used EV prices, and 8,000 plus cars. Used EVs are no longer the cautious choice. They're the obvious one. Every fastest selling used car in the UK right now is electric. Not most, not 9 out of 10, all 10. Auto Trader tracks how fast cars sell once they're listed. And this month, for the first time since they've been keeping records, electric and hybrid models filled every single spot on that fastest selling list. That has never happened before. Why now? Two things collided. First, petrol prices are high enough that combustion cars are starting to look like the risky choice, not the electric ones. And second, and the bit that nobody really predicted, is that used EV prices have been falling for most of this year, which sounds bad if you already own one, but it means the entry price into a used EV has never been lower. And there are some good EVs out there now. There's like a broad range of higher range car vehicles and so on is getting better for that. My verdict on this is the moment that they've used the EV as a gamble narrative that should have died. It hasn't fully died yet. Plenty of people still ask us about battery health before anything else. But when the market itself is voting with its wallet and voting unanimously, that's not a fluke. It's a shift. One caveat, because I don't want to oversell this, fastest selling isn't the same as best value or most reliable. It measures days on forecourt, not total cost of ownership. And that's worth knowing before you assume every one of these cars is a bargain. All right, let's go to the Renault Twingo. I saw this car. Let me just
Renault Twingo's in a
stage,
traffic
and we'll
jam.
turn it down a little bit and let it run.
It's a cute sub 20k, 100.
You don't want to hear my voice there, but I filmed these in France. Right. Is the 20k electric city car finally here? The Renault Twingo E-Tech, nicknamed Le Frog, has arrived at UK Renault retailers as a display model, with order books opening later this year. Renault is targeting a starting price below £20,000, a 27.5 kilowatt hour LFP battery, and a targeted range, WLTP range, of up to 163 miles, undercutting the Renault 5. Here's the direct answer. Renault's cheapest EV yet has just landed in UK showrooms. Not to buy, not yet, but to look at. It's called the Renault Twingo E-Tech, and Renault's own staff have nicknamed it Le Frog. Over 100 left-hand drive display cars, every one of them painted the same shade of absolute green, have crossed the channel and are sitting in Renault retailers up and down the country right now. You can't drive one yet. Order books open later this year, with the right-hand drives following after that. What matters is the number underneath it. Renault is targeting a starting price of below £20,000. That's the same bracket as the Dacia Spring and the Leapmotor T03, and it undercuts Renault's own Renault 5, which starts at £21,495. It runs a 27.5 kilowatt hour LFP battery. It's got an 80 bhp motor and a targeted range of up to 163 miles. 163 miles is not really a number you buy for motorway trips. It's a number you buy for the school run. It's the commute, the second car in the driveway. And at sub 20k, that's exactly the buyer Renault is chasing. The bigger story is what it says about the market. After years of EVs creeping upwards in size and price, the cheap end is finally getting genuinely cheap again. And it's a sweet little car. I've had a really good reaction to it online. Even from this post, people are saying these are so cute. And Renault are doing a good job with their EVs. They're making them very appealing and how they're designed and so on. Okay, I'm going to go into a sector on EV Charging Bootcamp now. Because we've got a running series on just like teaching people about using let me just remove that and put that back up on stage. On using like public charging and home charging. So this week we're going to talk about EV charging at home. How do you actually charge an EV at home? Direct answer is the home charging uses a 7 kilowatt wall box on an EV specific overnight tariff that typically charges 5 to 10p per kilowatt hour against 40 to 90p per kilowatt hour on public rapid chargers. All UK home chargers must meet smart charge point regulations. Renters and flat owners can claim up to £500 per socket from the EV charge point grant. Owner occupiers with a driveway are no longer eligible. Welcome to episode 4 of EV Charging Bootcamp. We've done AC versus DC. We've done connectors. We've done the difference between kilowatt and kilowatt hour. Today, we're doing the one that actually changes your monthly bill, charging at home. Let's start with the direct answer because this is the number people always ask for. A standard home EV charger installs at 7 kilowatts. Put that on the right overnight tariff and you're charging at somewhere between 5 and 10 pence per kilowatt hour. Compare that to public rapid charging, which we've talked about before on this show many times, and you're often paying 40, 60, even 90 plus pence per kilowatt hour on a public DC unit. Same electricity, wildly different price. So how does it actually work? You get a 7 kilowatt wall box fitted to an outside wall, usually near your driveway or garage. It plugs into your car with a Type 2 cable, and this is not optional. Since July 2022, every new home charge point sold and installed in Great Britain has to comply with the smart charge point regulations. This means it can be scheduled to charge automatically during cheap overnight hours, and it comes with a randomized default delay built in. So thousands of chargers across the street don't all switch on at exactly the same second and spike the local grid. Now, the money. If you're on a dedicated EV home charging tariff, and we display all the prices for home charging tariffs, as you can see, and we send out those tariffs monthly to our club members, you'll get something like an overnight EV rate. You can be paying as little as 5 to 10 pence per kilowatt hour for the hours it matters. On a standard variable tariff with no EV rate, you're closer to 25 to 28 pence. I'm just going to put up our other rates, because then you can actually see what is being charged right now. Let me just get that very, very quickly. Share that tab instead. Here are the current rates for charging at home and lease deals and everything else. On a standard variable tariff with no EV rate, you're closer to 25 to 28 pence. Either way, it's a fraction of public pricing. This is genuinely the single biggest lever anyone with a driveway has to cut to their running costs. And here's the part that doesn't get said enough on this show. Not everyone has a driveway. It does get said quite a lot, actually. If you're a homeowner with a dedicated off-street parking, the old grant, the electric vehicle home charge scheme, it closed back in 2022. So you're paying for installation yourself, typically somewhere around £900 to £1,100 fitted. But if you're a renter or a flat owner, there's still real money on the table. The EV charge point grant now pays up to £500 per socket, or 75% of the to install charging at rental properties. And if you park on street with no driveway at all, that's a council-run scheme, the on-street residential charge point scheme, not this one, and it depends entirely on your local authority. We did a whole show on this recently, so you'll see I think it was April the 1st that all the new rules came in, and we've done a deep dive on it. So if you look back through our podcasts on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you get podcasts, you should see that show, and you'll get a really good breakdown, because you can all get grants at the moment. In different forms, and you can also get grants for cable gullies with some councils. That's the other thing we're offering, is a free council checker that you should look at sometimes. It's important, and you can get money off. Home charging is where the real EV savings live, full stop, but the system as it stands still rewards people who own a driveway and asks everyone else to chase down a council scheme or a landlord's goodwill. That's not a technical problem, that's a fairness problem, and it's one part of the charging conversation we don't think gets argued for enough. It's true, if you've got a landlord, you can actually get a charger installed under a grant now. That's brilliant. Next week, I'm going to do episode 5, which is the last in this series, and I'll finish it with public charging, what you're actually paying, why it varies so wildly by postcode, and how not to get stung by it. Okay, we're going to talk about policy and values next. So let me just put this screen up quickly so you can see it. Is UK car production actually falling? UK car production fell 7.5% in the first half of 2026 to 385,979 units, according to the SMMT, published yesterday. Quarter to nearly flattened out. Nearly flattened out, just down 0.1% year on year. The SMMT says EV investment is a risk unless the government reforms the ZEV mandate and resolves the EU-UK trade terms. UK car production fell 7.5% in the first half of this year, according to figures published by the SMMT. That is 385,979 cars and commercial vehicles built, down from the same period last year. The headline number is worse than the underlying trend, though. Break it into quarters, and quarter 2 came in almost flat, down just 0.1% year on year, helped by stronger exports and car production actually returning to marginal growth. The SMMT's argument, in plain English, manufacturers are being asked to hit the ZEV mandate, EV sales targets that outpace how fast people are actually buying electric. To hit those targets, they're discounting EVs heavily, sometimes at a loss, which eats into the profit that would otherwise fund UK factory investment. Their ask isn't to scrap the mandate, it's to reform it so it matches real demand and to get UK-EU trade terms settled so manufacturers know what they're planning against. The mandate exists because voluntary targets weren't shifting the market fast enough. That's worth remembering before treating this purely as industry lobbying. But when every major manufacturer is telling you the target and the demand curve don't match, that's a genuine gap. How do you guys feel about the ZEV mandate? Do you think it needs to be pushed harder or not? It's not really a talking point. The honest read, though, is that both things are true at once. The mandate is doing its job of pulling EV sales forward, and it's doing that job at a cost the industry says is not sustainable long term. Okay, let's talk infrastructure, because it's happening, and it's happening quickly. I'm going to go back to my main screen of graphics so that you can just continue to see what's going on with the pricing. I'll go back to that. Okay. Who now owns the UK's biggest charging network? And the answer is Instavolt. It's agreed to acquire 228 Genie Point charging locations from Equans, taking its UK network past 1,200 sites and 4,250 chargers. And it makes it the first UK charge point operator to pass 1,000 sites. This is a quick one to close on, but Instavolt has just become the first UK charging network in the UK to pass 1,000 sites after agreeing to buy 228 locations from Genie Point. Once it completes, Instavolt runs more than 4,250 chargers across 1,200 sites nationwide. The sites, local authority car parks, motorway services, retail and hospitality locations, get rebranded and upgraded over the next 12 months. That's including BYD's ultra rapid charging tech that we've talked about on the show before. Consolidation like this is generally good news for reliability. Fewer operators means fewer apps, fewer subscriptions, and one company that's accountable for a bigger slice of the network. It's worth watching whether that scale translates into lower prices or just a bigger single point of failure. Instavolt are really good on reliability, but they are not cheap. That's the thing about that network. So I hope that they can get pricing down and make it a little bit easier for everyone. Okay, let's go to a few Q&A type questions. Club members, thank you for joining. Lots of questions coming in. Can I install a home charger if I rent my flat? Yes, you can. Renters and flat owners can claim the EV charge point grant worth up to £500 per socket or 75% of install costs, whichever is lower. You'll need your landlord or freeholder's written permission, a dated installer quote, and proof of tenancy. And make sure that installer quote is from a listed supplier. There's an installer link on our website, I think, and there's also installer links on the gov.gov.uk website. So make sure that they're an approved installer and that you've got a proof of tenancy. You'll still need to get your landlord on board, but the grant doesn't override needing permission. The money is there for you guys, and it's gone up, not down this year. So try and make sure that if you're a renter and you want to get an EV, you have the right to go and get a grant for having an EV charger fitted at your property. Okay, is 7 kilowatts the fastest a home charger can go? The direct answer for that is for most UK homes, yes, it is. Standard single-phase domestic supply caps a home charger at 7 kilowatts. Faster home charging needs a 3-phase electricity supply, which most UK houses don't have and which is expensive to install. Some new build developments are being wired for 3-phase from the start, but for the vast majority of UK homes, 7 kilowatts is the practical ceiling. And for an overnight charge, it's more than enough. The car is often limited, so look at your vehicle's OBC, which stands for onboard charger. The onboard charger limits the rate at which AC electricity is converted to DC. So even if you've got a 22 kilowatt power supply, these onboard chargers are often only rated at 11 kilowatts or even 7 kilowatts because they're cheaper and smaller units to put in the cars. So early Renault Zoes got 22 kilowatt charging, as did Tesla, and a few other models are still doing. I think there's a Polestar, but I think it's an option that you have to pay for. But it's really makes a difference, especially if you're charging not only on 22 kilowatt at home or at work, but also on many of the chargers. The AC chargers that are situated around London are 22 kilowatt rated chargers, but a lot of people plug in and they can only charge at 7 or 11 kilowatts. So you find that a Tesla, modern Tesla, charges slower than a Renault Zoe. So check it, because if you want a city car and you want to use public charging, or you want to use 22 kilowatt 3-phase charging at home, you'll get a super fast charge for your car. So it's a good way to do it. Do I need a smart charger or can I fit a basic one? It has to be smart. Since July 2022, every new home charge point sold and installed in Great Britain must meet the smart charge point regulations, meaning scheduled off-peak charging and a randomized default delay are built by law. You can't legally buy a new non-smart unit for home installation anymore. The regulation closed that option. What if I don't have off-street parking at all? Direct answer, home charger grants require dedicated off-street parking, so they don't apply. On-street charging is funded separately through the local vehicle electric infrastructure fund and on-street residential charge point scheme run by your council. Availability depends entirely on where you live. This is the genuine gap we flagged in the bootcamp segment. It's the least uniform part of the whole system, and it's the part hitting people who don't have a driveway hardest. It's important, that one. Is home charging actually cheaper than a petrol fill-up? Yes, by a wide margin. On a dedicated overnight EV tariff at 5 to 10p per kilowatt hour, a full home charge typically costs a fraction of an equivalent petrol tank, often under 10 quid for 150 to 200 miles of range, against 70 to 80 pounds for a full petrol tank. The gap is exactly why this week's lead story makes sense. When running costs are this different, it's no surprise that the used EV market is moving the way it is. If you want the cheapest public charging rates every month, the best lease deals we find, and a digest of what's actually worth knowing, join the Primetime EV Club. It's free. The link is in the description. It's primetimeev.com/club, or just email us at club@primetimeev.com and I'll get you added. Thanks for tuning in. See you next Friday at 11 a.m.